Hey there, this is Heather Youmans, and I'm here with Matt Laug, and this is part of a new show that's coming to Studio City Sound Live's Ustream, and this is the grand opening show, and it's entitled The A-List Sessions, and where I come to you with interviews with LA's best A-list session musicians. And
when are they getting here?
And you get to ask the questions, so ask away, and then I'll pass the question on to Matt here. So, it's nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, Heather. Wow.
I know. Matt and I actually had the opportunity to work on the same track together. You played drums on...
you wrote it and sang on it?
Yeah.
And we played on it.
And so that was a great experience. And so how long have you been recording at Studio City Sound?
At Studio City Sound? Good question. I can't tell you. It's been years. It must. So this is 2012, and I think I've known Tom for years. I can't even tell you how long I've known Tom. But at Studio City Sound, it's got to be at least 7 or 8 years, at least at the bare minimum.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up actually both coasts. I was
really?
in South Carolina.
The voice of God.
Right. He's on the phone. So,
Both coasts.
Both coasts. I grew up in South Carolina. I went through all the schools, you know, elementary and all the way up to high school in South Carolina. And then when I was 18, I moved to LA. So I've been here ever since. So kind of grew up both coasts there.
And what was the first record you owned?
Owned?
Yeah.
Mine, like, okay, does it count that my mom bought it for me because I was that young? Okay.
We'll count that.
Okay. I would say 2 records.
Okay.
Originally, the first one was the Batman theme song. Batman. And then my brother told my mom, go get him the Beatles' Magical Mystery Tour. And so both those records were kind of the same, at the same time they were bought for me. And I think my brother did that just because he didn't own Magical Mystery Tour and he needed it in his collection. So he said, Mom, go buy Magical Mystery Tour. So the Batman theme and the Beatles' Magical Mystery Tour were my first records.
And who were your major musical influences as a child besides Batman?
Besides Batman.
Beatles.
And all of his Bat music dances he was doing. Well, of course the Beatles, because my older brother was turning me on to all the music that I was turned on to when I was a kid. So the Beatles. And then he turned me on to Kiss. This is back in... Cameron likes Kiss. This is in 78, and I was 10 years old. And I was like, whoa, what is this? And you know, my brother brought the records home. I was like, who are these guys? And I listened to it. I was like, wow. And so it was Kiss, the Beatles, and that led to bands like Queen and Aerosmith, Rush, and stuff like that.
Yeah, and who introduced you to the instrument, the drums?
Again, my older brother used to have a drum kit.
Oh, really?
And I was too young to remember this, but our family album had a picture of this cool drum kit. And I was like, whoa, what are those? And he says, well, that was Mark, my brother. That was Mark's drum kit. And I was like, wow, where is he? He goes, well, he quit after about a month. So I was like, wow, I want to get a drum kit. And my parents were like, no, your brother quit after a month. We don't want to spend the money, and you quit at the same time. I said, no, I promise. I just feel it. I know this is going to stick. So my brother turned me on to being a drummer, too.
And how old were you at about
I was 7, my first drum kit.
7,
Yeah.
Wow.
It was like a little toy drum kit. It wasn't a Muppet Show drum kit, but it was kind of like a Muppet Show drum kit, you know, with the paper heads and little tin shells. And it was about this tall. And so I was 7. And then I went through that, like, no problem. And then, you know, breaking heads and cymbals and stuff. The cymbal was like a tin, like, little disc like this. And that broke. And so, like, the following year for Christmas, I got the Sears catalog professional drum kit. And Blue Sparkle and...
Blue Sparkly. Yeah. And how did you go about learning the drums?
I played along to records, and then I didn't really have my first instructor till I was about 14, and this is back in South Carolina. And do you know of the country group Alabama? They're like the Beatles of country music. Alabama, they're huge. Well, the drummer in Alabama, before he joined the group, was living in my hometown in Florence, South Carolina. And my mom asked around, does anybody know anybody who can give Matt drum lessons? He goes, yeah, there's this guy who can give you drum lessons. And so it turned out to be Mark Herndon. And so Mark gave me great lessons for about 6 months, something like that. And then he had to move an hour away to Myrtle Beach, where this band, Alabama, had this house gig making $50 a night, you know, for each member. And he had to move to the beach and do that. So, and so he stopped teaching me, and I just kind of took over by myself, just learning from records again. So it was learning from records, and then my friend Mark Herndon gave me great drum lessons. I still use the stuff he taught me back in the day. But he had to move away and become, you know, rich and famous with the band Alabama, and I went back to learning from Kiss and Beatle records.
So, like you said, when you were 18, you moved to Los Angeles.
5 years ago.
5. When was your first professional gig?
Oh, well, that was in South Carolina.
Yeah, that was before that.
And it was also the place where I found out you have to shell shrimp before you eat them. It was at a country club, and I made $100. And it was like, whoa, $100. And it was a 3-piece band, and the guys were a lot older than me, the guitar player and the bass player. And I was like maybe 16. And on a break, I walked over to this huge bowl of shrimp, and I was like, oh, I'm starving. Oh, and I had the shells on them and stuff. So, anyway, so that was my first professional gig and my first life lesson.
Yeah. Besides the shrimp, how did it go?
Great.
Yeah. It wasn't shaky. It was just you felt like you were in it.
Yeah, I just, I've always loved playing drums and making music, so it felt natural.
And what was your first big break, and how did that come about?
Let's see. I'm still looking for it. I guess, well, the biggest thing so far was I got to play on this record with my friend Lance Morrison. Lance Morrison is a great bass player, and this is back in 1994. And it was demos for this girl that this big-time record producer named Glenn Ballard was producing, and my friend Lance got me in on the session, and we did like 3 or 4 songs, and we kept doing songs, and then I didn't hear from her until her record came out, which was Atlantis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill. So, and it was like, bam, it blew up. So I went from, that kind of opened up the door to doing more records and stuff, because before that I was doing jingles and demos and only that. And then that just kind of, as the years went by, they started calling me to do records and stuff. So that was officially my big break.
And what was it like recording?
Thank you, Atlantis.
With Atlantis Morissette.
And Lance.
I love Atlantis Morissette. What was it like recording with her?
She was great. She let you do what you felt the music needed, and if there was anything she didn't like, she would say something. But she would just, both her and Glenn Ballard were like that. They were like, just play what you feel. And then there was little tweaks, like, hey, don't do that. Hey, try that. But it was, it was my first real experience of finding out what letting the musician do what he's supposed to do, as opposed to telling the musician what to play. You get better results when you just let somebody play what they feel, as opposed to telling them what to play.
And so we have Atlantis Morissette. I know that you played with Christina Aguilera / the list goes on and on. But if you had to pick, I know that it's hard when you have to pick, who would be your favorite artist / band that you've played for? Oh, that
I've worked with and played for? That's wow.
That's very hard, probably.
Yeah. There's a guy that you probably never heard of. He's like the Beatles of Italy. This guy named Vasco Rossi.
And, I read about him.
Yeah, he's insanely huge, and his music's great. I don't understand. I'm learning Italian, but I don't understand 90% of his lyrics. But you don't have to, because the emotion that it exudes and exudes, is that a word? Anyway,
exudes, yes.
The emotion and the crowd response and the band. I love the band, and So anyway, that is probably the best experience I've ever had. And the Slash thing was great too. That was I think the highlight of that band's moment or career, if you want to call it that, was opening up for AC/DC for a couple of months on the road. That was just amazing. The band, our band, Slash the Snake Pit, was the peak of its career, and then we got to open up for AC/DC, who were the nicest guys, and I still kind of keep in touch with them. Not really the band, but their techs and stuff. They invite me down to to the whatever Staples Center or Forum to go see the show, and and I'll go by the dressing room and go, "Hey guys," like, "Hey, long time," and I'll be like, "It's AC/DC, they remember me."
And one of those was an international tour. Were both of them?
The AC/DC one was just in the States, but with Slash we went to Asia and Europe actually.
Yeah, and how do the international tours compare to working in sessions?
These are great questions.
Thank you.
You're doing so well. You're going to be very successful. Now, what was the question?
So basically, how does international touring and being on the road compare to working as a session musician?
Oh, yeah, they're two different animals. But as far as me playing, I consider them to be the same. Because there's really no difference. A friend of mine told me this years ago, and it stuck. There's no difference from the way you play live and then the way you play in the studio. They're the same. They really are. There's nothing magic about this. It's all about you playing and singing. There's no difference between live and in the studio. There shouldn't be anyway. So as far as that, there's no difference. But touring, you know, it's a lot of travel, and you know, to lead up to that 1.5 or 2 hour or hour long show. That's, you know, the reason why you do all the traveling and put up with, you know, getting your luggage lost or you know, putting up with the bad hotel or whatever. Once you're on stage playing for that hour or two, that's, you know, where it all is. It's the moment on stage is what you do it for, you know.
So you have no particular preference?
Now, that's a good question too, because when you record for somebody like you, that's forever. Right?
Yeah,
but when you play live, it's kind of like in the moment, unless somebody's out there with a recorder or something like that, or it's being filmed. But there's the difference. So I think as far as like longevity and having something that you can put in your hands and have there for the rest of your life, I prefer the studio. Yeah.
And can you describe to me a day in a life, basically a typical day for a modern session drummer?
A lot of waiting for the phone to ring. Especially nowadays, man. It's so crazy out there. It's like, it's not what it used to be. And I'm new to this game of session work. I mean, you talk to guys like the legends that have been in LA for, you know, 30 years or 40 years, like guys like Vinnie Colaiuta and Steve Lukather and all these guys who have, you know, playing all these massively successful records. It was a different time back then. So for me, I've only been doing it since 15 years now. So it's okay. So the day in the life is basically things have slowed down. So you just kind of you wait for the phone to ring, and when the phone rings, it could be any. There's a lot of different sessions. There's like sessions like here at Studio City Sound where they already have a drum kit. And it's just so easy. You just walk in, and Tom gets great tones, and everybody, it's family here. Yeah. And you just come in, or at least I come in, and I hear your song, and I make my chart, and then I go get tones, get drum tones with Tom, and then we run through the song, and then we get, you know, feedback from the artist. Hey, I love that. No, try this, blah, blah, blah. And bam, you're done. Then you team up, and you know, get both ideas together, being the artist and the player, and that's, you know, that type of session. Then there's other sessions where it's like you know, you have to arrange cartage, which is they send your drums or your instrument, whatever you're playing, to the studio, and it could be a union date, which is it goes to the union, which usually is TV shows or movies or records, and it could be live, which means there's other players, not just yourself sitting in there. Like today, I played to pre-recorded tracks, so it was only me. But a live date is when everybody, a live band, a bass player, drummer, piano player, guitar player, whatever, is all in the same room. That's called a live date. That's a whole different animal. So there's different days in the life of a session musician. But at the end of the day, it's so much fun. Yeah. So much fun because you're creating music.
And you slightly touched on how the session work has really evolved. And how do you think session work has evolved over the years with the rise of changing technology in the recording industry?
Great question. Yeah, man. Back in the day, you had this machine. I don't know if you can see that. It's a 2-inch machine, and 2-inch machine. And so that's non-existent now. That's obsolete. We have Pro Tools now. So I feel like there are a lot of bands out there that really shouldn't have record deals, because with technology you can make anything sound great. You can move stuff around, you can pitch correct, you could tighten stuff up. You don't know, it takes the soul out of the music. So that is the biggest change that I've seen, that with the evolution of technology and where it's gone these days. So
and this is kind of building on that. What are your views on the evolving state of the industry, most notably with the internet and the fading of the traditional system?
That's right. Yeah, it's very sad, but you don't need record companies anymore, which for the artist is great. But for the working musician, record sessions were usually union.
Yeah. And
union dates are better for a musician because you get paid down the road. You get paid if it gets reused in a movie, or if it gets placed, the song you played on gets placed in a movie, so you get paid again. Or if the song, there's just different scenarios where the union member, musician, gets paid a couple of different ways down the line as it goes on. So without a union backing you up, you don't get that. So you come to work a studio and you get paid once and that's it. Even if you hear the song in a movie, sorry, it's not a union date. And so that's one of the biggest things that's changed, and I think is really sad. And actually outside of sessions and stuff like that, we don't see record stores anymore because of the internet. Bookstores are going down. It's I mean, the internet is beautiful, but it's starting to become a bad thing, actually, for a lot of people. So, but, a lot of recording studios have gone underwater, or just disappeared, because you don't need the big studios anymore. You can do a record in somebody's living room now, because with Pro Tools. So. Anyway, so there's a lot of good and bad, but what you have to do is just roll with it. You can't do anything about it. You try to adapt to the change.
So that's basically what you see in the future. Just a lot of adaptation.
Totally. Yeah.
And then just a fun little question. Currently, right now, what is in your CD player or on your iTunes list? What are you listening to?
Well, I haven't had a CD player in a while, so that's gone. Well, iTunes, there's everything. Like just this morning, what was I listening to? The Beatles. And Beatles. What else? I don't know. I haven't bought new music in a long time. I really haven't. It's a sign that I'm old.
And since you've already contributed so much,
I love this. She's got questions here, then she's got them written down on the side, and then she's gonna be like this.
Oh, you should have seen the first draft.
Wow.
You've already contributed so much. But today, what inspires you to keep on doing what you're doing?
Just the love of doing it.
Really?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you just passion and it's never like I'm continuously, I should say, trying to get better at what I do. So that's what the love of doing it, the fun, and I get to make money doing it and pay my bills. But also, it's that continuous feeling of wanting to get better, and no session's the same, no live gig's the same. There's always some element that makes it different from the last one, and that makes it easier, makes it harder. So it's always a changing platform. It's like, wow, how do I make this? How do I sound good in this situation, or how do I play my best in this situation? So it's that struggle that keeps me going.
And the music is always changing too.
Totally, yeah.
And do you have any advice for any young drummers that may watch this now or in the future?
Yeah. I could kid around and go, quit. I don't want to lose my work. But no, actually, if I was told this when I was 7 years old, I would have been really, grateful. And that is, playing a lot of chops and stuff is cool, but it doesn't matter. You have to play to a metronome and get your time and feel together. That's the most important thing. Everything else really doesn't matter. I mean, it matters to people who read Modern Drummer, which is this drummer magazine, and oh, look at that, you know, he's got to transcribe that fill that goes. But if you think about in music, what's the most successful music out there, it's usually the most simple music. You know, to some degree, you know, you could think about classical music, which is very complicated, but the music that I'm speaking of is more like rock and roll and stuff like that. Just for me personally, my own opinion is just keep it simple and play to a click and play what they say or what they call play the song, and that really means just play what the song needs. Don't play anything extra or play this fill because you practiced it and you thought it was cool and you need somewhere to place it. It's not about that. It's playing what's right for the song. And
this has been a great interview.
Yeah,
and
thank
a
you.
Great grand opening for the show.
Oh, this is the grand opening? Wow.
Yeah, I know, special. So how can everybody watching stay updated with you in special projects? Do you have a website?
I don't. I'm really lame at that. I just I have a MySpace page, but I don't even do that anymore. But yeah, to keep up with me is I kind of prefer to be under the radar, but the best way, I guess, is to go to my MySpace page, Matt Laug. Was it MySpace Matt Laug or Matt Laug MySpace?
I think it's www.myspace.com/Matt Laug.
There you go.
But great, this has been so much fun.
Thank you, Heather.
And thank you so much. You're so wonderful.
Oh,
and
likewise.
Just amazing.
Hope we get to work together, soon on one of your new songs.
Fingers crossed.
Bye.
Take care, you guys. Tune in next Thursday or the following Thursday after that, and we'll have new players here. Thanks.
My curiosity, it's got the best of me. Wanna let go, but your voice it surrounds me. Are you a Romeo? Just another Romeo. It goes